Hey guys, welcome back. Tisha here, back with another Love and Marriage Huntsville review. This episode really got on my nerves, especially once we saw the piece of crap of a man that Latricia is still married to. And I just feel like I never thought I would see a bigger clown than the clown that is Martell, but apparently these M's, it's just something wrong with them. No offense to you M people out there. My mother's name starts with an M. I'm just saying, it's something wrong with these M men on this show. So we pick up with the Fletchers talking about attending a therapy session. There is some back and forth about therapy because Nell does not feel like she needs it and she doesn't want to go. I don't feel like therapy is a bad thing. I feel like it's a great thing. It personally saved me. And I feel like it needs to be more common because there's a lot of things that people don't realize that they need help with, and how having that person who is a trained professional, and sometimes you have to shop around because I had to shop around in my adult life for my therapist. You have to figure out what works best for you, but it's beneficial. Anyways, Nell doesn't think that she needs it. She just feels like she needs boundaries. I personally think that she needs both, especially after watching this show. So we're back at Black. Marceau is meeting up with Marquez. Apparently, at one point, he worked for him. So he knows all three of them, Ken, Latricia's husband, and him. He supposedly is up there to apologize about getting into a fight at Black with Ken. I don't understand what he's apologizing to Marceau for, especially because he didn't realize it was him. And it sounds like this was something that happened a long time ago, because later on in the episode, Trisha says, haven't talked to him in a long time. He even talks about how they haven't really communicated since he left. So I don't get the timeline on this. Marceau claims that he didn't know that she was married. He didn't really know a lot about their situation. We find out that he no longer lives in Huntsville. He now lives in Atlanta. He says they were together since they were 18 years old. Her parents passed and he wasn't really there for her. That he loved her, but he doesn't feel like he was in love with her, which is the same exact thing that she said about him. During COVID, he realized that he didn't want to be with her, which means that was the year of 2020, which means that 5-year period, or however long they've been dating at this point, there is some overlap here. Despite her trying to act like there isn't, there's some overlap. He says that he left because he couldn't handle Ken being so involved with his kids. Piss poor excuse. He's talking about how he's bothered about how he takes them to school and how he's at games and how he took his daughter to the dance. He doesn't like it. Marceau says, so, okay, so basically you couldn't handle being a father. I don't agree a lot with him, but in this situation, Marceau speaks a lot of truth here. Now, whether he does these things for his own children remains to be seen, but it's clear that Trisha's husband doesn't. He feels like Trisha has erased him in his daughter's life, that he was there for 7 years and all of that has gone unnoticed. Okay, you were there for 7 years. She's about 10 now. So it's been 3 years since you left. I'm confused, but either way, it's not her mother's responsibility. When you left, you have to put forth effort. Marceau says men have to learn what happens to a family when you decide to leave, and they have to think about if they're okay with their daughter. Ooh, excuse me, it's late, y'all. Sorry. With their daughter sitting on another man's lap, or with their son calling another man father. When he said it, I was like, that's an interesting thing to think about when you're talking about leaving your wife rather than if you really love her. I hate when people just stay for the kids, but that's just my opinion. It makes me wonder why hearing him say that, though. if part of the reason why he's still with Tisha is for these very reasons that he's saying, which is the kids, and he doesn't want another man to raise them. He tells him that he has beef with Kim because Kim was under the IG pictures plotting on his wife, that Trisha knew Ken from the gym, and that's why she got, so heavily into fitness. He felt like Ken was just sitting there waiting to get involved with her, even though she had a husband. And if he was, is Ken flawed? Yes, but Ken doesn't owe him anything. He needs to take that up with his wife. So he, at this point, is blaming the situation on Trisha as to why his daughter says things like she doesn't love him anymore and she hates him. I can't say whether or not her mother has some input in that or influenced her in that situation, but I will say that kids aren't dumb. Not only did you move out of the household, but he moved away to another state. He left her at a crucial age, so of course there's going to be some resentment there. He left, so more than likely she's blaming him. Be a father and fight for her. This man said he left because he couldn't handle the situation. You're a clown and you're a deadbeat. My parents got divorced years ago. Well, at this point, you could say decades ago. And one thing that I can say is that my father didn't skip a beat. He handled the situation. He sent my mom money every month. He took us clothing shopping and paid for various things and made sure even when we lived 13 hours away from each other that he saw us at least once a month. And he did things to ensure that he still remained present. And I just don't understand why a lot of these men don't fight for their kids. It's like they take up their frustrations on the children. Be a parent. And I'm saying this as someone who has experienced certain things. It's not right for the woman to always have to overextend herself and do all these other things just to ensure that you're in her kid's life. Whether or not you're with the women, whether or not he's with you, you should make sure that your kids have a part of the life, but it has to be something that both parents want. Marceau says, you did this. You were there. You were in your daughter's life. You helped raise her to a certain extent, and then you left. You left them. You didn't just leave their mother, but you left your kids. Her mother didn't tell her that you left. She saw that you left. And I said, boom. That's it, Marceau. Good job. He's bothered by Ken's role. The fool said he doesn't want them to do anything for the kids. Don't hug his daughter. Don't comfort her. If there is a problem with her, what he wants him to do is he wants him to pick up the phone and tell her to call him when he lives all the way in Atlanta rather than go to Ken. Crazy how you don't show up for your kid and then you want to dictate how that kid is supposed to move when you probably don't even understand where that kid is at emotionally, and that kid probably will take more to open up to you because you're no longer a constant. He sounds like a clown. He tells him if he wants to co-parent, then he's going to have to co-parent by making sure that he talks to the parents, that he needs to have a conversation with Ken. And he's like, and one of the things that you need to do, Marceau says, when you had that conversation with Ken, is you need to tell him thank you. And he's looking at him like, say thank you for what? He says, thank you for the things that he does. Does he do anything for your kids? And he's talking about how he takes his kids out the country and he's there for all these different things, and how for the son, he helped with the purchase of the car and this and that and that. You're sitting here complaining about a man who is ensuring that your kids are okay. And to me, sounds like he's treating them better than even you are, which is the true problem. His ego is crushed. And later on, Marceau kind of talks about his pride. You don't do things for your kids. This man does. He says, look, dude, you got to have less pride and realize that this guy is helping you. And that's how their segment ends. Nell and Nell meet up. She tells Nell that the kids came over and she wanted to talk to them about setting up boundaries. And instead what they did was they ganged up on her by telling her that she needs therapy. And them ganging up on her and saying what they said hurt her feelings. I do not see how that hurt her feelings, but okay, we're just going to go with it. Mel wants to know what's wrong with the thought of going to therapy. And she keeps talking about, how providing for everyone else is taking a toll on her and how her blood pressure is up and all these other things. And that's something that needs to be addressed then, because you obviously need counseling to help you set boundaries in appropriate ways, my opinion. Mel says you got to learn how to control your emotions, because there are times when you're mad at me and you've even gone off on me. And she's just more concerned about the fact that they go to Fletcher rather than her. She feels like Fletcher kind of didn't have her back. Mel tells her, you feeling that way is valid, but you should talk to someone. She tells Mel that she doesn't like that the kids keep going to him to talk to him about stuff, but they only go to him because of how she reacts. Mel tells her just saying that you want them to leave you alone isn't going to work, because she's like, I just need everybody to leave me alone. She's like, just saying that you need them to leave you alone isn't going to work, especially if you're saying that your pressure is up and things of that nature. So I think you should go to therapy and just take one for the team. The way that Mel presented it was good. I like the fact that too, she pointed out to Nell that, a lot of times we as a culture don't take advantage of these things, that we always act like, okay, it's fixed and that's that, and that we don't need those additional help. But the services are out there, and more of us are utilizing it, and she would like to see it be a thing where it's not looks, frowned upon. She says that in Nell's generation doesn't seem as open to therapy as her generation is. Nell ends up agreeing to go. Back at the Fletcher's house. Nell is already in defensive mode and they haven't even started the session. Dr. Francis arrives. Nell says, we're here to set boundaries. My personality is strong and they're not listening to me. They're not listening to me, not the kids or my husband. He takes their side, and she finds out things after everybody else. But at the same point, she has to solve the problem. He immediately hears her talking, and Dr. Francis is like, okay, I'm hearing all the things that you're saying, but one of the things that I'm picking up in this situation is pain. So Lance starts to talk, and he tells Lance to give him an example of, what happens. So Lance is like, look, when something needs to be addressed, my father allows me to speak to him and get everything off my chest. Whereas when I talk to my mom about it, she doesn't listen for me to just say what I got to say. She listens to rebuttal. And as a result of her rebuttal and how upset she gets during that rebuttal, it makes him shut down. As he's talking, she interjects and does exactly what he complains about, which is have a response rather than listen to him. And she goes, yeah, I interject a lot of times, because most of the time I got to tell his stupid A that I told you so. Like, this is how she's talking. You can tell your kids that they didn't handle something appropriately or they messed up or something like that without all of that. Sometimes it just doesn't require all of that. I learned very early on with my son that he doesn't respond very well to me fussing or the rah, 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 rah. He shuts down. One of the ways that I found that out was in therapy. And I, over time, really had to work on that to make sure that I didn't repeat the cycle, because the rah-rah was done to me as a kid and I continued it on to him, and that wasn't fair. That's not something that I needed to do. You have to be willing to adapt. But Nell a lot of times struggles with that because it's her way or no way. You can just tell she got a lot of mouth. Nell is a mess. How are you going to sit up there and say that these kids need some help, but you're showing us in this session that you need therapy too? And I'm not saying that the kids aren't wrong. I feel like the kids need to be taught life skills and the word no. They want to sit up there and keep spending your money. I noticed all the girls had fresh braids in their hair and things of that nature. All of those things cost money. Tell them no. They need to learn how to be more responsible, because guess what? If they can't keep coming to you, then they're going to start to do what they have to do and grow up and take care of their responsibilities. Basic questions, and we see her screaming and she's cussing and she keeps on interrupting her son, proving his point. Dr. Francis is observing this interaction, and he quickly sees the differences in Chris's parenting versus Nell, because she's doing all this rah-rah and Chris is very calm even when responding to the doctor. Dr. Francis is like, look, I have adult children as well, and they approach each one of us. More times they go to my wife than they come to me, but my wife always ends up coming to me and we talk about it. They don't have to come with him with everything. And Nell starts going off about that because she's being excluded once again. Why is it such a big deal that you're included on everything if you're complaining when you're included? Pick a struggle. I just want her to be quiet and listen, because it's just too much. No one wants to be talked down and yelled at, because she just kept fussing. Bottom line, Nell is tired of them coming to her to only talk about finances. She just wants them to come to her. I get that other things are going on, but the first thing to me that they should have done was set a boundary in regards to giving them money. But he kind of said, like, we can deal with that, the finances, later. We got to talk about some other things here. We don't know what else happened in that meeting because we didn't see it. But he tells the kids, like, look, your mother is making all this noise because deep down she's actually a softie, and this is what she does. So they're asked how it affects them, and one of them says, like, it hurts when she does it. So he tells Nell to go around and say something nice about all of the kids. So she goes down the line, says something nice about each one of the kids, including her niece. You can tell based on the way that all of them are crying that it's not something that they're accustomed to hearing because of how they're responding. They're crying because she gives them like one or two positive statements. They need more sessions. They end up hugging and embracing, and Nell surprisingly wasn't as bad as I thought she was gonna be. At some point, Dr. Francis was able to knock down her wall just a little bit. End of that. Trisha and her husband, they meet up. I'm gonna be honest, I feel like this is all a big con, because y'all have had all this time to talk to one another. Why do you decide to finally come into town and make an appearance and do all of this stuff when she's filming this show? Why wasn't this done prior? Trisha and Marquez meet up to talk. He starts off by saying that they haven't even spoken since he left the house. I want to know, when did they leave? It's so evasive. They're leaving so much stuff out. He says he doesn't have respect for Ken because he's been waiting in the wings. And I just like, okay, so this is how we're going to start this story, talking about Ken again. What did you do? Practice with Marceau so then you knew what to say when you got to your wife? She says, look, we outgrew each other. You weren't there. The person I was supposed to go to wasn't there. I want him to get over it. You didn't want her. So at this point, even though she cheated, even though she did stuff behind your back, even though she obviously hurt you and you obviously hurt her, what does it matter? This man is helping your wife raise your kids after you left and decided to move to a different state. You don't communicate with the kids that you made. You're a freaking clown. Who cares if you don't respect him? We don't respect you. Let's talk about that. You got me looking at Trisha like she's crazy because of her storyline, but I'm looking at you like you're crazy too, because you were actually willing to come on this TV and talk and complain about this guy and keep calling him muscle man this and muscle man that, showing your insecurities. She says He's making it look like something that it wasn't, that she wasn't sitting there cheating on him. They were already separated. I really don't care. It's excuse after excuse after excuse. And he's mad about the fact that he no longer is playing the role, because apparently it was just something that he did that was convenient. A father. He talks about how when he went to his daughter's school to pick her up, that he got upset because she doesn't even refer to him as her father. She refers to Ken as her father, because she was talking about how her father drives trucks. And he was like, I don't drive any trucks, so I don't like the fact that y'all got him calling her father. And she's like, I don't have her calling him anything. I just feel like it's all just stupid. He says, you know, he don't like it. She was like, okay, well, we got that to worry about, and we got other things to worry about too, like having that paper signed. He's like, look, I want to have a heart-to-heart with Ken. Like, he changes the subject. He's like, that's kind of tough, but I want to have a heart-to-heart with Ken, the big muscle guy. He wants to co-parent and get rid of the hostility towards him. Well, one of the things you need to do to start off with is stop calling him big muscle guy and call him by his name. He's going to go to the courthouse since he's in town. He said, I think it's about $400 to file. And then she's like, okay. And he's like, I want you to go half. And she tells us that he's pissing her off because she don't understand why he wants her to pay half of it, but she's going to get Ken to pay for half of it. And then you're pissing me off because why isn't it something that you already did if you wanted this so badly? And why did it take him having to file when you were acting like he just wouldn't do this and he wouldn't do that, and you never filed at all? The marker keeps changing as to what the story is. That is all I have. Let me know what you thought of this episode. Until next time.